Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are taking a scalpel to a very complex stack of New Republic files. We're going to be moving beyond just the simple metrics of, who shot down whom. And instead, we're diving into some really high-stakes espionage, the brutal calculus of psychological warfare, and the chaotic, deeply personal lives of the pilots who were tasked with executing the impossible.
That's exactly right. Our mission today is really laser focused on understanding the true nature of this conflict with warlord Zsinj.
Right.
Because this was a war he waged on multiple fronts at the same time.
Right.
He didn't just challenge the New Republic with overwhelming military force. And let's be clear, the sources show his fleet was massive. I mean, at one point he's fielding over 20 capital ships.
20? That's huge.
It's immense. But he also challenged them by exploiting the very political ideals the New Republic was founded on. It's just a fascinating case study in how warfare can target your social structure and your science, not just your shield generators.
It's the difference between destroying a building and undermining its entire foundation. We've got deep dives into everything from enhanced Gamorreans to double agents and decoy starships. Okay, so let's unpack this. We should probably start at the top.
Yeah, the command structure.
Exactly. The operational command and the specific unit that was designed to handle all this chaos. When we look at the command structure, you see this really fascinating shift. Commander Wedge Antilles, the absolute legend, the veteran Corellian pilot we've always known as Rogue Leader.
Right.
He suddenly gets this major promotion that it burdens him with all this organizational complexity.
It's a necessary promotion, but you can feel his reluctance in the notes. I mean, Wedge officially assumes command of the entire complement of 4 Starfighter squadrons aboard the Mon Ramonda.
So that's Rogue, Wraith.
Rogue, Wraith, Nova, and Polearm.
Yeah.
And this transition, it immediately forces him to take a step back from the cockpit. The sources make a point of noting that he promises to still fly with the Wraiths when circumstances allow.
So he's not just a desk jockey now.
It's not at all. It's a clear sign that, despite all the administrative duties, his heart is still firmly planted in that fighter bay, but the day-to-day command of his most unique asset, Wraith Squadron, that have to be handed over.
And the pilot he selects for this really sensitive job is not the most obvious choice. It's Lieutenant Garik Face Loran. Now, for anyone who hasn't been following the deep lore, Face is a human male from Pantalomen, and his previous claim to fame before his military career was being a boy actor.
Right.
Suddenly, he's promoted to brevet captain, making him the new Wraith One. That is an incredible leap of faith for Wedge to make.
It absolutely is, and this really highlights Wedge's highly progressive meritocratic approach to leadership. It's something the New Republic sorely needed to differentiate itself from that rigid Imperial hierarchy.
Sure.
Face, despite his background in holodrama, he demonstrated this extremely rare combination of superior tactical savvy, the ability to command respect in really unusual circumstances, and a competence in deep cover operations that, frankly, outstripped even more veteran pilots.
So it's not about time served.
Not at all. It's about acknowledging demonstrated ability. That's why he earns the temporary rank of brevet captain. I mean, he's leading a unit of misfits and spies, and he has the perfect background to understand how to maintain a believable disguise.
Speaking of misfits, let's talk about Wraith Squadron itself. This unit is described in the records as intentionally unconventional, almost like a storage depot for extreme talent that just doesn't fit the standard military mold.
The sources don't mince words here. They call the Wraiths lunatics. It's a squad built on second chances and just raw, eccentric talent. Look at the personnel highlights.
Okay.
You have Flight Officer Vort Piggy Sabinring. He's a Gamorrean male. And historically, Gamorreans are known for simple, warlike intelligence.
Right. Big pig guards with axes.
Exactly. Piggy, however, is a mathematical prodigy. He's capable of analyzing complex naval maneuvers that even admirals struggle with. He communicates in BASIC through a mechanical throat implant. He's a walking, breathing contradiction.
The idea of a Gamorrean solving complex differential equations while he's piloting an X-Wing is it's the perfect encapsulation of what the Wraiths are.
It is.
But he's not the only outlier.
Oh, far from it. We have Hohas Runt Ekwish, a Sakwash male flying Wraith 6, and Fakwash cockpits are uniquely tall and aerodynamic to accommodate their body structure, which it illustrates the logistical nightmare of even fitting this squadron together.
Right.
Then there's Diapasic, a Twi'lek female who started her life as a slave dancer on Ryloth. This unit is intentionally a melting pot of species and backgrounds that the Empire would have rejected outright.
The sources even give us a glimpse of the new blood coming in.
They do. The new recruit is a Lasser Targan, a Devronian male, and a very, very junior officer. The second he walks in, he strikes this absolutely ridiculous superhuman hero pose, chest out, arms flexed like he just stepped off a Holovision screen.
So he immediately gets a nickname.
Immediately. He earns the nickname Master of the Universe, so even their newest members are certified delightful eccentrics.
It's just pure channeled chaos. What's most telling, though, is the attitude of the veterans. Wes Jansen, the squadron's senior lieutenant, a well-respected veteran, he's completely comfortable being passed over for command. He prefers to be just one of the gang instead of stepping up to Wraith 1, and eventually he even transfers back to Rogue Squadron.
And that decision, it really reinforces the identity of the unit. Wraith Squadron is not fueled by typical military ambition. It thrives on camaraderie and direct action. Jansen's preference for the field over management solidifies the idea that this unit places competence and loyalty to the team above traditional rank structure.
They're a family.
They are. They are fundamentally a family of individuals who have nowhere else to go.
Now, above Wedge, managing the macro strategy, we have General Han Solo. And reading the sources, he is truly struggling with the burdens of rank.
Oh yeah, Solo is introduced as a general, but he is constantly openly fatigued and reluctant. He's preoccupied with this fear of being stuck with management duties forever. He provides a stark, charming contrast to the hyper-disciplined Wedge.
But that reluctance doesn't make him strategically dull.
Not at all. The sources highlight the core strategic problem. New Republic intelligence is critically failing to keep pace with warlord Zsinj's massive 20-plus capital ship fleet expansion.
So Zsinj is winning the resource game. Solo needs a strategy to regain the initiative, and the solution is brilliantly simple and devastatingly dangerous.
He has to bait a trap. And the ultimate bait is something Zsinj truly hates and wants destroyed: Han Solo. The execution of this plan necessitates the creation of the Millennium Falsehood. It's a standard YT-1300 transport, designed to look just enough like the real Falcon to draw Zsinj's personal interest.
What's the price tag on a throwaway lure like that?
They acquired it from a group of Corellian smugglers, and the trade was highly unusual. One hyperspace-enabled TIE interceptor in exchange for the YT-1300. Solo himself confirms that trading a functional military asset for a slightly battered transport is crazy.
Yeah.
Unless the absolute goal is to use that transport as a sacrificial decoy designed to blow up Zsinj. The falsehood is expendable. The real Falcon, thankfully, is not.
The moment you are weaponizing a replica of one of the most iconic ships in the galaxy, you know you've moved into a level of warfare that relies on psychological manipulation.
Exactly. They are using Zsinj's ego against him. But as we see in the next section, Zsinj wasn't just sitting around waiting for the New Republic to start playing games. He had already planted his own long-term seeds of sabotage.
Okay, so this is where we see the true nature of Zsinj's genius, or maybe his depravity.
I think that's the right word. The New Republic is focused externally, tracking fleet movements. But Zsinj had already shifted his focus to internal sabotage and sophisticated intelligence operations. This is pure psychological warfare designed to make the New Republic destroy itself.
It started with an attempt that shook the Republic to its core. The assassination attempt on Admiral Akbar.
Admiral Akbar was targeted by one of his own security detail, a Lieutenant Jard Ian. The attack was swift and horrifyingly close to success. Ian first murdered an aide with a muffled blaster shot to gain entry to Akbar's office.
And this is where the sheer, almost accidental luck of having the Wraiths nearby comes into play.
It is. The quick thinking of the Gamorrean prodigy, Piggy Sabinring, saves the Admiral's life.
How does it do it?
Piggy, despite being a Gamorrean, a species not known for reflexive precision, and despite suffering from the shock of the event, he executes a perfect split-second intervention. He throws a vibroblade.
Wow.
And it strikes Ian's blaster, shearing right into the trigger guard. This disables Ian's primary weapon. Akbar then manages to subdue Ian, but the sources emphasize that Ian was unnaturally strong, actually throwing the Admiral aside before being killed.
But the immediate consequence was not the death of the assassin. It was this chilling, cryptic clue Ian left behind. Akbar knew why. What did intelligence make of that?
Well, the fallout was devastating because the intelligence investigation, relayed by Solo, focused instantly on the superficial identity of the attacker. Ian was identified, or at least appeared to be, a Twi'lek, which fueled immediate speculation about a widespread Twi'lek conspiracy.
Based on old history.
Exactly. He was rooted in historical fear-old warrior cast resentment against human dominance. The implication was that a whole segment of the New Republic was secretly plotting betrayal.
And this leads directly to Zsinj's ultimate strategic objective.
Precisely. The panic was so acute that the Provisional Council, the political leadership of the New Republic, ordered the immediate fleet-wide suspension of all Twi'lek personnel from active duty.
Wow. So that includes people like Diapassic from Wraith Squadron?
It did. Diapassic, Moiravan Rogue Squadron's executive officer and a highly competent lawyer, and the mechanic Koi Komed. All of them suspended.
So the moment the New Republic acted on prejudice, Zsinj won a massive victory, regardless of whether Akbar lived or died.
Wedge identified this immediately as Zsinj's true masterstroke. The objective wasn't just to kill Akbar. It was to wound the New Republic by forcing it to violate its foundational value of equality among species. It created instant, deep-seated internal prejudice and bitterness.
It must have been devastating for morale.
It was. The mechanic, Koya Komad, expressed the pain perfectly, noting that the goal of a galaxy where species didn't matter had seemingly gone. Zsinj forced the New Republic to betray its own idealism, damaging morale far more effectively than any Star Destroyer battery ever could.
That's a powerful analysis. It shows how a single targeted action can just collapse years of political progress. So how does this connect to the scientific arm of Zsinj's terror, the brainwashing project?
The Wraiths were investigating Binring Biomedical on Sapphilor for a very specific reason. Zsinj's facility there had previously manufactured the exact type of cages Piggy was reared in. They suspected a link to his unusual intelligence, and they were right. Zsinj met directly with Doctors Novin Bress and Etta Gast from the Special Operations Division of Binring Biomedical.
The scientific ambition here is truly dark. What was the explicit goal of this project?
The goal was, it was breathtakingly sinister. The project aimed to create highly intelligent conditioned sleeper agents from species generally known for simpler, more predictable behavior. They specifically mentioned Gamorreans and Ewoks.
And these agents would be engineered to blend in perfectly until they received a specific trigger.
Exactly. So Piggy wasn't just lucky. He was a literal science experiment.
And the records confirm this.
Confirmed. The sources identify Piggy as subject Gamma 9104. He successfully underwent the intelligence series of treatments, but escaped the final aggression treatments, the ones designed to make him a willing killer.
How did he escape?
We learn this fascinating detail that his creator, Dr. Tuzin Gast, that's Etta's uncle, was the one who inadvertently saved him. Tuzin committed suicide via chemical explosion, specifically to kill the most promising, most aggressive subjects in a twisted act of conscience, which allowed Piggy to escape into the wider galaxy.
That suggests some internal dissent within Zsinj's own scientific core, and this program seems to have been highly successful outside of Piggy's escape.
It was. They even identify a second potential enhanced agent. Remember Lieutenant Ketch, the pirate pilot with the hawkbats?
The one Wes Jansen made up as a joke?
That's the one. The sources confirm he is potentially a similarly enhanced Ewok from the program. Zsinj's net was cast wide, setting up agents across the galaxy ready to act on his command.
So what was the implication for the New Republic once they had this blueprint? How do you even fight that?
Well, the long-term danger was validated. This brainwashing process was successful, and it targeted specific biological groups, mammalian and near-mammalian species, as the sources note. But because Wedge had successfully analyzed the psychological component that Zsinj wanted widespread prejudice, New Republic intelligence was able to use the blueprint to move preemptively.
Okay, so they got ahead of it.
They did. They thwarted subsequent sedition attempts, specifically catching a Sulistan pilot planning to crash a luxury liner on Coruscant and a Bothan civil services employee planning a power center explosion.
This is a critical point. By intervening early, they prevented a recurrence of the Twi'lek tragedy.
Absolutely. Preventing the Provisional Council from issuing similar prejudicial orders against Sulistans and Bothans was a huge political victory. They proved the conspiracy was highly targeted and controlled by Zsinj, not a species-wide issue, and they gained an immense intelligence asset in the process.
Which was Dr. Gast, who was captured during the Wraith infiltration we'll get to in a moment. What was the deal she made?
She agreed to a massive intelligence exchange. She would receive 500,000 credits, amnesty, and a new identity, in exchange for the biological signs and markers that indicated Zsinj's brainwashing techniques. This allowed the New Republic to start rapidly screening the entire fleet.
And the nature of the conditioning itself provides a vital clue for that screening.
Yes, the sources confirm the condition is temporary, lasting less than 1 standard year. And crucially, the activation system is extremely sophisticated. The trigger phrase can include variables.
What do you mean?
For instance, if the instruction is to commit sedition, the trigger phrase might be something entirely innocuous like, I need a new speeder, with a variable like, the Lacertargum broke mine. This level of detail shows Zsinj's scientists achieved a level of control that was subtle, pervasive, and frighteningly effective.
It's terrifying to realize that the person sitting next to you might be a walking time bomb set to detonate by a casual conversation.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have to pull back from the high strategy and look at the brutal ground-level operation that captured Dr. Gast and gave the New Republic this intelligence blueprint. This is where Wraith Squadron moves from Starfighter aces to elite commandos. We're diving into the high-stakes infiltration at Binring Biomedical on Saphalor.
This was a full commando raid, requiring precision and pure physicality. The team included Face, Lara, Kel, Donos, Runt, Piggy, Shella, and Tyria. They used a stolen land speeder, having left the owner tied up. This wasn't a clean, sanctioned operation. This was down and dirty.
So they knew it was dangerous going in.
Oh yeah. They noted immediately that the security was overkill for a pharmaceutical fabrications plant, which confirmed they were walking into something much more sinister.
What details about the infiltration stick out, showing how carefully they had to approach this?
The reconnaissance detail is incredible. Lara Notsil, showing her keen intelligence background, which will become very relevant later, identified vulnerabilities in the sensor net by noting corrosion and alignment issues on infrared posts.
So she's seeing things others would miss.
Exactly. And Keltainer also identified a seemingly clean stretch of Duracrete floor that turned out to be newly installed, blocking access to a fourth floor. They were sensing trouble at every step, but they pressed on, identifying Northwest 2 as the most vulnerable entry point.
And their suspicions were immediately confirmed. The facility was designed as a kill box.
The moment they breached, the traps sprang violently. They were channeled into a room ominously described as the first chamber, an incinerator room. Yeah. The floor above them opened up, dropping them into a place designed to burn organic material, while stormtroopers lined the edges above, just raining down fire. The goal was wholesale annihilation of the Wraith unit.
Survival here relied purely on visceral, desperate tenacity. We need to spend a moment on the sheer physical cost of that escape.
It was horrific. Face Loran, the former actor, was badly burned and in agonizing pain. Diapasek suffered a broken arm. They were severely injured, yet they refused to stop fighting. Keltainer's quick demolitions work was crucial, creating an exit through a wall just as the incinerator activated.
But the truly shocking moment, the one that defines the lunatic nature of the Wraiths, comes from Hohas Runt Ekwesh.
Runt, the Thakwash pilot, proved to be shockingly effective and, well, brutal in close-quarters combat. They are fighting for their lives against the facility's security forces, led by Captain Netbers, a massive man, described as looking like he fell asleep in an automatic door. Netbers attacks Runt, and Runt engages him. But the result is not a clean military takedown. The source is very clear. Runt grabs the massive captain and slams him repeatedly into the metal wall until the captain is dead. This is savage, brute force survival, driven by pilots who were trained for agility but forced into the role of desperate commando.
That kind of intensity has to take a severe toll, and we see it immediately in Lieutenant Donos.
Donos was already a haunted man, reeling from the destruction of his previous unit, Talon Squadron, which was wiped out by Zsinj's ally, Admiral Triggett. The sheer violence and near-death experience on Saphalor pushed him over the edge.
It was broken.
Fundamentally broken, yeah.
Yeah.
He was debating whether to fully commit to vengeance by transferring to intelligence or trying to find some semblance of a normal life and rebuild his pilot career. He was just paralyzed by conflict.
This is where Wedge Antilles, the commander, demonstrates some unusual wisdom. Instead of just accepting the resignation Donos tenders, Wedge applies a very specific type of pressure.
Wedge refuses the resignation. He acknowledges that Donos is volatile and erratic, but fundamentally capable. Wedge's goal is to redirect Donos' self-hatred. He uses this powerful, almost philosophical comparison. He compares Donos' inability to move on to his deceased R2 unit, Tun.
How does that work?
Wedge notes that Tun has no future. Donos does. He stresses that Donos must learn to forgive himself for letting his pilots die, realizing that revenge isn't the only viable path forward. It's a very unconventional approach to counseling, framed in the context of hardware and personal failure.
And while Donos is dealing with this trauma, he attempts to re-engage with normal human interaction, specifically targeting Lara Notsil. And it is painfully awkward.
Painfully so. He approaches Lara, stating he spent too much time thinking about her, trying to initiate a relationship, It's formal, clumsy, and emotionally stunted. Lara initially rebuffs him, saying she's not right for him. Then, in this deeply confusing reversal that only hints at her own internal struggles, she kisses him, before immediately pushing him away, telling him to keep away. The shocking detail is that Donos, in his damaged state, actually interprets this failed, confusing interaction as a successful attempt at human connection. He's that far gone.
Wow. Meanwhile, Wedge has to handle the systemic psychological damage Zsinj inflicted with the Twi'lek ban.
That damage was pervasive. And to counteract the low morale and the internal divisions caused by the Provisional Council's prejudice, Wedge initiates this fascinating social experiment, what the sources call a fleet-wide mutiny of anonymity.
What's that mean?
The goal was to temporarily level the playing field by encouraging officers, enlisted staff, and civilian personnel to mingle socially without their rank insignia.
Did it work?
It did. It
Yeah.
showed people the person behind the rank. We get a great anecdote. Koi Koma, the Twi'lek mechanic who was just suspended, ends up winning a week's wages from a senior officer, Captain Onoma, in a card game. This demonstrated the success of the initiative in rebuilding internal unity and showing the value of the individuals, regardless of their species or rank.
We needed that bit of levity, especially before the final missions. And speaking of levity, we have to mention the running joke that emerges from the final briefing.
Oh, the sinuses. Yes.
Mhm.
They are planning their next move, and Runt Ekwish, the Thakwash pilot, sneezes, just as Wedge asks if anyone can spot flaws in the plan. This sparks a moment of pure Wraith absurdity.
Of course it does.
Face and Lara immediately turn it into a weapon system, joking about Runt's sinuses being a secret weapon. They debate the feasibility of loading Runt's massive nose cavity with Plaskiel ball bearings, which Runt could then sneeze out at 500 kilometers per hour, fast enough to penetrate light armor.
The idea that the New Republic's elite pilots are trying to weaponize mucus is exactly why we love this unit. But that absurdity leads them directly into their next operation, which requires them to turn Zsinj's own enhanced creations against him.
Precisely. They acquire a newly enhanced Ewok named Cholku, who is confirmed to be pretty bright thanks to Zsinj's conditioning. They immediately rename him Lieutenant Ketch, adopting Jansen's fictional joke character. The plan is to install this highly intelligent Ewok in a TIE interceptor cockpit, complete with prosthetic hand and leg attachments to make him look authentic. This is a crucial element for their next operation, posing as Zsinj's own Hawkbat's pirate group.
That is the definition of covert ops taken to an absurd, desperate, yet highly effective degree.
It requires extreme commitment to the gag.
Okay, so the strategic pursuit of Zsinj is where all this planning really pays off. The deployment of the Millennium Falsehood and the coordinated use of the Wraiths. It was all designed to achieve a single goal.
Lure Zsinj into a kill box.
Exactly. First, though, a review of Zsinj's naval strategy confirms a fatal flaw.
Yes, and Piggy, the Gamorrean analyst, provides crucial insight from his back-to-tank during his recovery. He analyzes the previous fight between the Monramonda and Zsinj's flagship, the Iron Fist.
And what does he find?
Piggy noted that Zsinj's maneuvers to protect his crippled cruiser, the Razor's Kiss, were by the numbers. Numbers are force dictated. In other words, when Zsinj is forced to protect a resource or fight defensively, he is predictable. He follows a defined tactical playbook.
That predictability was later exploited in a crucial conflict at Levian II.
It was. At Levian II, Solo faced Zsinj's massive fleet, which still included the Iron Fist and over 20 capital ships. Solo was severely outgunned, but he won by leveraging deception and coordination. He called in Group 2, doubling his strength, which forced Zsinj into a vulnerable defensive posture.
And his cruisers played a big role.
Critically, Solo's cruisers, the Monramonda and the Moncaron, executed a brilliant close-quarters collaboration, absorbing battery assaults together to divide the damage. Zsinj was forced to retreat, admitting he lost because of one little mistake that allowed Solo to slip through his fingers.
This confirms that Zsinj is vulnerable to coordinated strategy that forces him to react to multiple threats at once. Enter the decoy.
The Millennium Falsehood, piloted by Solo and Chewbacca, with Donos volunteering as gunner, is the ultimate lure. It is intentionally sluggish, not fast or maneuverable. Precisely so, the Zsinj scouts view its destruction as a low-cost, high-reward decision. Solo specifically confirmed that the ship was packed with explosives, ready to crash dive into a target if the operation failed.
And the operational goal was to establish a pattern of activity that Zsinj would see as vulnerable.
Exactly. The Falsehood conducted repeated run-in, run-out missions deep within Zsinj's territory, hoping to establish a predictable schedule that would lure the warlord into an ambush. The Kidra 5 operation provides a detailed example. The Wraiths, flying captured TIE interceptors, that's Kel, Shala, Elasser, and Jansen, went in first to make a preliminary landfall and test security.
And then the escort.
Then Tycho Selchu of Rogue Squadron coupled his X-Wing directly to the Falsehood's hull for the escort out, making the entire thing look like a desperate amateur smuggling run that was easy to intercept.
During the Kidra escort, Wedge is surprised by a legendary, feared Imperial unit, the 181st Imperial Fighter Group, Baron Fell's personal unit.
This was a massive shock, because Fell had been seen briefly collaborating with the New Republic. Wedge's pilots were suddenly faced with a ghost from the Empire's past. Their tactics, however, seemed slightly off, which led Face Loran to pursue the intelligence.
And Face learns the truth from an unexpected source. Admiral Rogris, an Imperial who is actively working against Zsinj.
Right. Rogris confirms that the real 181st is still loyal to the core Empire under Tur Finnair. The one pursuing the New Republic is an entirely fabricated unit, assembled by Zsinj. The entire confrontation was a psychological operation designed specifically for Wedge.
And the pilot behind the mast is a familiar, infuriating face for Face Loran.
It is. The fake 181st is piloted by Tetran Cowell, Face Loran's rival actor from their Coruscant days. Cowell was using computer voice enhancement to flawlessly impersonate Baron Phil.
It's worse.
It gets much worse. What's even more terrifying is the composition of the squadron. It was half human pilots and half droid-piloted TIEs packed with high explosives. These were not fighters, they were flying bombs designed to suicide target Wedge Antilles specifically.
That detail is chilling. Why did Zsinj go to such lengths just to create a fake unit for Wedge?
Zsinj knew Wedge had a personal history with Fel and a high regard for the 181st reputation. Gal confirmed that Zsinj created the decoy specifically to draw out and kill Wedge, betting that Wedge's personal feelings about Fel's perceived desertion would make him obsessively want to solve the mystery and expose the fake.
So he's targeting commanders by exploiting their history.
And their ego. Zsinj truly understood that if you wanted to defeat the New Republic, you target its most competent leaders. He mastered the art of manufacturing a crisis built on lies. Which brings us to the biggest lie of all. The identity of Lara Notsil.
This is where it all falls apart. As the complex military strategy unfolded, the personal and political conflicts reached their catastrophic peak with Lara. Face receives files confirming his greatest fear. He discovers that Lara Notsil is actually Garik Patothal, a deep-cover agent for Imperial intelligence, and worse, the daughter of high-ranking Imperial agents. She was declared dead after the destruction of the Star Destroyer Implacable, presumably to give her a clean slate for her long-term mission.
This isn't just a breach of trust, it's a fundamental catastrophe for the squadron.
And her history is devastating.
The sources confirm it. Her past treason includes transmitting classified data to the Empire data that Admiral Trigget then used to annihilate Mindonis's previous unit, Talon Squadron. This fact ties her directly to Donos's trauma and gives him an immediate, powerful motive for revenge.
And legally.
Legally, she's finished. Wedge confirms that transmitting classified data to the Empire is a capital offense. Treason warrants the death penalty regardless of her recent actions.
This truth comes to a head in the most chaotic way possible during the Kidra escort mission. Donos, hearing her identity confirmed over the comms, just snaps.
It's a complete emotional collapse. He fires a proton torpedo at her X-Wing. This forces Face, who has just learned the truth himself, to act entirely on instinct. Despite the reality of her betrayal and the threat she represents, Face puts his own X-Wing between Donos and Lara, yelling at his pilots not to fire.
Wow.
It's a spectacular act of insubordination and loyalty to an individual who, may not deserve it. It just proves the loyalty of the Wraiths is personal, not institutional.
Donos, realizing he almost killed a comrade, albeit a traitorous one, tries to justify his action by saying he wasn't in his right mind, and he tenders his resignation yet again. He is completely broken.
The crisis of confidence is universal. Face, shaken, later admits to Wedge that while his logic dictated he should have arrested her immediately, his gut instinct told him she was now a loyal Wraith. And Wedge uses this as a teaching moment. An officer, especially in intelligence, must learn to trust that instinct.
So, with her cover blown and the Wraiths compromised, Lara flees.
She defects to Zsinj, taking on the new alias Kearney Slane, and is installed as an analyst aboard the Iron Fist. She plays Zsinj's game perfectly, telling him a fabricated story that she fled the New Republic after a Wraith stumbled onto her background.
And Zsinj believes her.
Zsinj buys the story because she's Garik Patothal, a known high-level asset, and he is confident he can exploit her.
But this defection is actually a final, critical double turn.
While aboard Iron Fist, She executes her plan with frightening efficiency. She uses her dedicated R2 unit, Tonin, to secretly manipulate the ship's computers accessing secure areas. She discovers the location of the Zsinj's medical wards, the same facility where Binring Biomedical's enhanced enslaved life forms are caged.
So Gamorreans, Ewoks.
Gamorreans, Ewoks, Billars, Ranots, all of them. And this moment defines her redemption. Her time with the Wraiths, the unit of misfits and second chances, it breaks her Imperial conditioning.
So she frees them.
She frees the enhanced prisoners. The resulting chaos is immediate and bloody. The Gamorreans, driven by the trauma of being scientifically abused, immediately attack and kills the Zsinj's personnel in a horrific act of revenge. Lara does not interfere, feeling she has absolutely no right to protest their actions after what they endured.
And she then sets the stage for Zsinj's inevitable defeat.
She does. Lara implements the Parasite Plan, a program that causes a progressive, spreading failure in the Iron Fist's critical hyperdrive system. She then sets the ship's course to the unmapped star system of Solagas, where Solo's fleet was already waiting thanks to her transmitted data. She effectively trapped Zsinj using his own flagship.
Her final action is a deeply tragic, recorded farewell to the squadron.
It is. She broadcasts a message explaining that she was fighting the war she was trained for, but that being with the Wraith broke down her Imperial conditioning. The image she uses is incredibly powerful and heartbreaking. She says the furniture of her lifelong beliefs was sliding around and breaking inside her head. She warns them that Zsinj might anticipate their next move at Vahaba, a prediction Solo's analysts confirm. And she offers a specific, painful apology to Danos, confessing she wished she had been someone else so she could have had a chance with him.
It's the ultimate sacrificial betrayal. But the New Republic cannot publicly acknowledge her redemption.
No, absolutely not. Wedge confirms that he and Solo must maintain the lie that Lara Notsil is dead. Garik, the hero who provided the data, is legally a traitor who must face the death penalty. Her survival depends entirely on the New Republic maintaining this lie of omission, protecting her from the letter of the law they claim to uphold.
Yet, Garik refuses to vanish entirely.
No. She transmits one final message as Kearney Slane from Corellia, operating a shuttle business with Conan. She offers Danos a veiled chance to contact her. And Solo, fully aware of the moral compromise required, sternly instructs his comm officer to report that the vocal resemblance is a coincidence. He officially closes the door on her existence to ensure her life is protected.
It's a tragic ending where justice is served not through law, but through strategic deceit. So, with Lara's critical data confirming the Iron Fist's destination and compromised hyperdrive, the end of the conflict is set into motion.
It is. Solo's forces, using the intelligence provided by Garik, ambush and trap the Iron Fist at Solagas.
And the battle is fierce.
Extremely. Zsinj, realizing he is cornered, utilizes his ultimate desperate contingency, the second death. The sources describe it as an ugliest ship assembled from wreckage, featuring a night cloak system that makes it vanish completely from active sensors.
So it's a final, frantic attempt to hide his flagship.
It is. And while the Iron Fist eventually vanishes or is destroyed, the sources later discuss its absence, confirming its neutralization. The New Republic achieves a massive, conclusive victory. They essentially destroy Zsinj's main power projection.
The external threat is neutralized, but the internal and legal threats still needed resolution. And this is where Noir Ven, the Twi'lek lawyer who was unjustly suspended, executes a moment of pure bureaucratic genius against Dr. Gast.
This is such a great moment. Then, tasked with escorting the captured Dr. Gast under her temporary amnesty deal, new Gast was inherently untrustworthy. Gast, confident in her deal, deliberately accepts her $500,000 credit payment in Imperial credits, a massive stack of obsolete currency.
She thinks she's safe.
She thinks she's won. But Ven, the Twi'lek, whose career was nearly destroyed by Zsinj's tactics, had done his legal homework.
What's the catch?
Ven reveals that under Coruscant law, importing such a large sum of Imperial credits is an act of sedition, not merely smuggling. The penalty carries a sentence of at least a lifetime in prison. Gast is arrested by security officers at customs, ensuring she's permanently removed from Zsinj's reach and unable to spread her toxic knowledge further.
It's a spectacular moment of irony. Gast used legal terms to protect herself, only to be tripped up by the fine print.
Ven achieves a masterful balance of justice and strategic necessity. He fulfills the letter of her amnesty agreement, she got her money, while ensuring the New Republic is protected. He sums it up perfectly as she spits on him. I let you do exactly as you wanted. I also saved your life. I'd say I've treated you rather well.
It's a precise legal form of revenge that restores some moral authority to the Twi'lek community, proving that knowledge and law are powerful weapons.
Absolutely.
With the external and internal threats largely contained, Wraith Squadron's role is officially recognized for what it had become.
It is, due to Face Loran's exceptional performance-leading operations that involved intelligence gathering, deep infiltration, commando actions far exceeding typical fighter combat. General Kraken, the head of New Republic Intelligence, officially recommissions Wraith Squadron as a formal, dedicated intelligence unit.
Face's transition is complete.
From actor to effective spy leader, it's complete and validated.
And finally, Mindanos finds the peace he desperately sought.
He does. Wedge certifies Danos as fit to fly, confirming that Danos has finally processed and moved past the emotional trauma that had plagued him since the annihilation of Talon Squadron. Wedge then approves his transfer request, assigning him to Rogue Squadron. Danos is ecstatic. He's moving back to a disciplined, conventional unit where he can rebuild his career and leave the ghosts of his past, both Talon and Lara Notsil, behind him,
A clean slate.
earned through incredible pain.
Okay, so if we synthesize the key takeaways from this deep dive, we see that the Zsinj was nearly victorious not through overwhelming military might, but through his success in manipulating the internal politics of the New Republic.
Exactly. His strategy of psychological warfare, exploiting fear and historical prejudice with the Twi'lek band, was profoundly effective.
And we saw the incredible lengths the New Republic had to go to adapt. They used decoy warships, deployed pilots ranging from mathematically gifted Gamorreans to former slave dancers, and eventually had to transform their fighter units into dedicated intelligence commandos.
They had to fight Zsinj in the air, on the ground, and in the Provisional Council chambers.
The entire operation hinged on individuals adapting their morality and legal standing mid-fight. We saw Garik, the programmed Imperial assassin, transition to a loyalist ally, whose freedom depended entirely on Solo and Wedge maintaining a calculated lie.
They had to choose strategic loyalty over legal justice.
Conversely, we saw the brilliant scientist Dr. Gast attempt to use legal maneuvering, her amnesty and Imperial credit payout to secure her freedom, only to be outmaneuvered by Noara Ven using the very strictures of Coruscant law to neutralize her permanently.
Which brings us back to our initial insight. Given that the ultimate success of the New Republic in defeating Zsinj relied so heavily on the critical, life-saving information provided by treasonous agents like Lara and on the exploitation of political loopholes to enact justice against Gast, we have to ask you this. Does strategic victory ultimately justify discarding the political and moral idealism the New Republic claimed to stand for? It seems that in a galaxy at war, survival demands that morality, like the furniture in Garipito's head, is constantly sliding around and breaking.
Something to think about long after the jump to light speed.